This is the Hockey Show. My name is Roy Bellamy. That is David Druk of the Hockey News. Ethan and Rosey are in the shipping container today. And we got Dmitri Filipovic of the Hockey PDOcast on Sportsnet Radio as our guest. If you're watching on DKN, you can watch that guest and the entire show on the LeBatard and Friends YouTube page. Just go to the playlist tab and click the Hockey Show photo, and there we are.
There we are.
So we're going to get into the Florida Panthers in a little bit, but I just want to mention that they have been completely dominant, not only against the Carolina Hurricanes, but pretty much the last 4 out of the last 5 games. Yes, Dave?
We have some breaking news. Literally just came in on my phone.
What happened?
For the 3rd year in a row,
Yeah.
Bill Zitto
is
a finalist for the GM of the year.
And he's not going to win.
Along with...
That's how that usually works. He's not going to win.
Jim Nill
is
and Eric Tulsky.
Yeah.
No.
Well, who's the third one?
Kevin Cheveldayoff.
Okay, so the Jets GM. All right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
they'll probably give it to the Jets GM because they won the President's
President's
Cup,
Trophy.
and then
No, they're...
Trophy.
Give it to
President's
Jim Nill.
President's Trophy.
What, Jim, are you kidding me? Svechnikov? Or, what am I saying?
No,
Rantanen?
that's Carolina. Yeah, Rantanen.
yeah,
God,
but Jim Nill won it
Carolina
last
on the
year,
brain.
and they didn't win the cup.
What is the trophy for?
He won it 2 years ago and they didn't win the cup. Who
Just
cares?
give it to Zito.
Zito
he
does-
pulled off Marchand and Jones. He's so deserving.
I agree. The Zito has been deserving every year, but I can confirm that he does not give a shit.
To answer
As long as they
Rose's,
win the Stanley Cup, he does not give a shit.
To answer Rose's question, this is the Jim Gregory Award. This is for the General Manager of the Year. So we got Bill Zito, Jim Nill, and Kevin Cheveldayoff. So there you go.
You're welcome. For those who don't know.
Okay, thank you. Oh, are you trying to goad it out of us? Is that why?
Oh, I'm trying to teach people like
Don't like yourself.
Rose is the voice of the new hockey fans
Yeah,
that
exactly.
are watching the hockey show.
You-
And we
you're
appreciate you
welcome.
watching the hockey show to all of you
Yeah.
new fans out there.
Yeah.
Rose has got your back.
All right, so we'll get into the Panthers more in depth in a little bit, but I just want to mention how dominant they have been versus both Toronto in games 5 and 7, and so far games 1 and 2 of the Eastern Conference
Don't
Final.
forget Game 4 against Toronto as well. They were fantastic.
They're also fantastic, but that was a home game. We're talking about the road games in this situation.
The Road.
Yeah, they outscored Toronto in games 5 and 7, and Carolina in games 1 and 2, 22-4. Overall, they are 7-2 on the road in these Stanley Cup playoffs and have outscored their opponents 43-9. Those 43 road goals through the first 9 road games of the playoffs is a league record.
Yep. Beating those stingy Avalanche.
Yep.
Set the record in 96.
Goal differential plus 25 on the road, also a league record through the first 9 games on the road.
You sound like the guy from Bull Durham. Like 12 strikeouts, new league record. 12 wild pitches, new league record.
Was that Robert Roll?
No, it was
The pitching coach?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Robert.
It was,
That's a good
Arliss,
voice, that guy.
right?
Yeah, Arliss.
Yeah.
So Eric Reed, who's the TV voice of the Miami Heat, used to call the mid to late 90s Miami Heat the Road Warriors.
Yes.
That's what the Florida Panthers are right now.
Nice reference.
Well, thank you.
That was good. Like the Thunder.
Yeah.
Leonard!
People
have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I know Rose doesn't.
I know. I wasn't alive, but I know what you're talking about because
Dr.
my dad
Jack.
loved watching those games back in the day.
Yeah. So as we mentioned on the show before, I signed up for the Florida Panthers Learn to Play program, which is a 12-week program that teaches you how to play the basics, what the basics are on the sport of hockey. You get on the ice and you do stuff. All right. My first session begins on Wednesday, which, by the way, if it happens, is Game 5. So that's going to be an interesting situation for me.
Maybe they'll put the game on the big screen at the Iceplex.
Yeah, I guess
There'll
I'm gonna
probably
stay
be a
there
watch
until
party at the
midnight.
Iceplex, no?
No, the watch parties are next door at the War Memorial now.
Yeah.
They packed it last night, too. It was really cool.
I'm fully geared up, ready to go, and we will provide progress reports on what's going to happen throughout.
So let me ask you, you've geared up before, obviously. Like, what's your take now that you've sat down, you've put on the gear, you've done that hockey ritual before, which you had not done previously. So what's your favorite part of putting the gear on? What do you like the most?
I would say putting on the pants because it's uncomfortable doing that in the locker room.
Putting on the hockey pants?
Yeah, putting on the hockey
Well, no,
pants.
that's a good feeling because you've got your shin pads as they just slide right on. Like it's kind of a feeling of like I'm about to be done with this.
Yeah. So yeah, we will provide updates on that. Rosey will also be the camera person. She will not be on the ice because she was slipping.
Ethan, what are the odds that Rose somehow gets in the way and makes Roy fall at some point?
I was just going to say how much I would love to see Rose trying to skate while like the cameramen at the World Juniors who were dressed in all white, skating backwards, trying to get video of
There's
Roy.
no way they
I
would
would
let Rose
love
do
to
that.
see Rose trying to skate like a hockey
telling
player
you
and
something right
video
now.
Roy.
They're not letting me use skates
No.
because I think they
Definitely
know
not.
I'm
You're gonna
gonna
be
fall
on
That's
the
down.
probably a good idea.
Yeah,
Rose
that's
having
not
Rose having razor blades on her feet, not the best idea I've ever heard.
I want to play a video of a team of mites making their way to the ice. These kids are getting into hockey. Now, you got to start these kids off early. And by example, I want to show you this kid who's walking out towards the ice. Now, as we play the video, he is walking towards the ice with his teammates, and he is pulling out a loose tooth.
Oh my God.
That is how you start these hockey players off early. Look at that. He pulls the tooth out, puts it in the hand of the camera person, and walks out to the ice.
gets that, Dad.
$5.
The
$5
camera
for
person
that
is his
kid.
dad, right?
Huh?
The
No,
camera-
that's $10.
$10 now? Inflation.
for that.
yeah, inflation,
So
bro.
you get to A for effort.
You pull
for
it
that.
out before the game. That's $20. Huh?
Yeah. All right, I get.
All right, Ethan, spoken like an uncle.
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
I got
Rosie, say
$1
Rosie?
for that. I
What is
got
it?
$1 for that.
$1?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm from Guatemala. The
Yeah,
rat doesn't care about me.
They pulled teeth out at dinner at Guatemala. Like, are you kidding me? It's
Are you
come
saying that
on!
right in front of her? Jesus.
What?
Rose is not impressed by pulling
Good
teeth out.
Lord,
Good
Dorky.
Lord,
My
Dorky.
goodness.
All right, wins and fails of the week.
Moving on.
Wins and fails of the week is
Save me.
presented by Jägermeister. Serve a code or don't serve it at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's code for more. Visit Jägermeister.com. Drink responsibly. David, what's your win?
My win of the week came after Panthers' Game 1 dominant win in Carolina, which we'll get to a little bit more in the show. But after the game, there was a lot of extracurricular stuff that happened. There was a guy shooting a puck at Brad Marchand. There was Bob taking a headshot. So there was a lot going on. After the game, A.J. Greer, who scored a goal in that game,
Yeah.
had a great game. He was being interviewed live on the air on TNT. And they were trying to get him to get into the stuff that he didn't want to talk about. He didn't want to get suspended, and he doesn't want to be bulletin board material. So A.J. Greer gave one of the, in the moment, great answers, especially for a guy, no disrespect to A.J. Greer, but for a guy that doesn't get interviewed as often as others, he had the perfect answer, and I just want to give him some props.
What occurred between Brad Marchand and Shane Gostisbehere? What was your vantage point of that? What did you see on that play?
Yeah, I got no comment on that. We'll see next game. We're just going to keep playing hard and we're going to get on the forecheck and play hard. Yeah.
Great restraint. Oh, he wanted it
And
too.
I tried to slip it in right at the end, man. You just weren't biting.
It's called maturity, boys. Eh?
We don't know anything about it.
Boy, that's media professional right there, AJ.
We don't know a whole lot about maturity either.
No, we do not.
But I will say he wasn't wrong, though. They did take care of it in Game 2.
Yes, they did. And they'll probably take care of it again in Game 3 on Saturday. My win of the week is prior to Game 7 between the Panthers and Maple Leafs, and we will get off the Maple Leafs sooner or later. But a guy was wearing a Brad Marchand Florida Panthers jersey, and it's still weird to say, even this far into the playoffs, even with the success that Brad Marchand is having, Brad Marchand Florida Panthers jersey. Anyway, this guy was walking around town wearing this jersey and drawing the ire of Torontonians. Check it out.
So confident. So cocky.
Hit the road, buddy. That's going in the flames in the barbecue, eh?
Wow. Group boo.
And the guy in the Canada jacket shakes his hand, though. I love that.
Darth Vader over here.
This kid is awesome. I love this guy, dude. Head down.
Long way from Florida, eh, buddy?
Long way from Florida, eh, buddy?
Yes, that's how the map works.
It's a long flight from Florida.
Yeah, yes.
Not
yes.
as long as Toronto.
flight from Florida,
as
eh?
Edmonton.
Not as long as that drive home from the arena in Game 7.
Flat on my face on that one.
Yes. Ethan, your win.
My win of the week, we got to talk about this. It would be wrong if we didn't. Mark Scheifele, an unbelievably emotional game for him in Game 6, the final game of the Jets season against Dallas in the second round. He lost his father overnight the night before Game 7, found out about it, or Game 6, found out about it in the morning. What does he do? He goes out and scores a goal and to honor his father. And it was just an incredible moment. Everything about that game was super emotional. The handshake line after. Dallas was incredible. He had a great moment with Mason Marchment, who also lost his father. Pete DeBoer had a really nice moment with him. It was so hard to watch, but to see him score a goal for his dad, it was really unbelievable. So salute to Mark Scheifele and the Scheifele family. We're obviously thinking about everybody up there.
It was heartbreaking seeing him in the penalty box because he had to take. He
had to take that penalty. He should. Nobody should be blaming him for taking that penalty. They lose the game if they don't.
Did you text me like if this ends with Scheifele in the penalty box, I might break something?
Exactly.
I think.
And that's exactly what happened, and I almost broke my Xbox controller.
It was unfair, but to see his teammate then respond by going over to the penalty box, and he's got his head down and going in there and taking him out, and
Xbox,
it was beautiful.
X Series, yeah. That was Lowry, Adam Lowry,
captain. Deserving captain.
Yeah. Rosey, your win.
Win of the week was Barkov goal last game, and it's you don't have to put the video, but yeah, every time that he scores, this is the graphic they put.
So
beautiful, yeah, Alexander Barkov goal, woohoo, 16.
That's their intro video for the starting lineup. That's what they give.
That is his goal.
Alexander Barkov. It did say goal. It did say goal.
Yeah,
he does score occasionally.
It's similar to the intro.
Yeah, I did my homework.
Wow.
Oh, you did your homework?
Yes, I did.
Well, Jesus Christ. Why don't you tell me to kiss your ass then? Huh? How about that? All right, fails of the week. We got a collective fail of the week. And I think, it's not going to be the last thing from this series, but I would like to think that's the last thing for this series, the Panthers Maple Leafs series. Now, I can tell you right now, the series flipped. Game 3, second period, when the Panthers were down 3-1, they scored 3 unanswered, winning overtime, right? But the real turning point in this series happened in Game 2, second intermission, when Arda Öcal, our friend from ESPN, came on set in Bristol, went up to Steve Levy, Mark Messier, and PK Subban with a piece of paper. The piece of paper had what he drew as the parade route for the Toronto Maple Leafs when they would, quote-unquote,
just a death
win
sentence here.
The Stanley Cup this season.
An
That's
absolute death sentence. I
see
love
on his
Arda.
face, like he knows he's doing wrong right now.
One of my favorite guests we've had. This completely ended the Toronto Maple Leaf season, and they deserved it.
Well, I think this might have gotten the ball rolling, but I think the Drake bet and the Justin Bieber seats behind the glass may have also added to
and
that.
losing by a combined score of 12-2 in games 5 and 7 at home.
Biggest games in Toronto in the last 30 years, and those are the prices that people are paying for those tickets. Like, holy shit! Like, I feel for you, Maple Leafs fans, and I know a lot of Maple Leafs fans are Dolphins fans too. So I got you, but yeah, I feel for them. That
Justin
sucks.
Bieber actually dressed in Panthers colors. I mean,
he was trying to reverse his own curse. Maybe didn't work out so well.
One more fail, by the way. Game 1 of the East Final. Apparently, there was a sign fail.
Oh God!
Yeah, this lady typed out a rat, comma, in a cat suit is still a comma a rat.
Terrible use of grammar here.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
And capital I for in, capital I for is. It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway,
Is still
and,
a rat.
Yeah, exactly. So Dmitri Filipovic is coming up next. You can watch that on YouTube, LeBatard and Friends YouTube page, playlist tab, the Hockey Show folder. We have on the Hockey Show today Dmitri Filipovic from the Hockey PDOcast on Sportsnet Radio. We are going to talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs. Right now, we are in conference final era territory right now, and but first, we're going to start with some locker cleanout situation. We're going to start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Florida Panthers have yet again dispatched an original 6 team out of the playoffs earlier than everybody expected. First, it was the Boston Bruins, and now, for the second time in 3 years, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, this 7-game series against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the last 2 out of 3 games, games 5 and 7, was complete domination. The Panthers scored 12 goals to the Toronto Maple Leafs 2, and the Maple Leafs are about to break up their core, and they are restructuring at the top in the front office as Brendan Shanahan is walking away from the team. So, Dmitri, tell us about the aftermath of this series and tell us where the Toronto Maple Leafs are about to go.
Yeah, in the NHL postseason, there's no room for moral victories, although I imagine if the Leafs are watching these first 2 games of the East Final, they're probably feeling a lot better about their performance after what we've seen the Panthers do to the Hurricanes. I mean, listen, on the one hand, I expected the Panthers to win that series in 5, maybe 6 games heading in based on the form of the 2 respectively. So on the one hand, I feel like the Leafs squeezed the most juice out of that team that they possibly could have. On the other, I get, because of the fact that they were a goal away from being up 3-0 in that series, how close they were with that Game 7 at home, finally having won home ice by winning the Atlantic Division, that they felt like they should have done better. And so with Marner as a UFA, with Tavares as a UFA, although I expect him back certainly, with Matthew Nyes up for a massive new deal as an RFA, there's certainly going to be changes there. I think that's going to be a league-wide theme with the cap going up, a lot of teams feeling desperate to make moves. So this could be a really wild offseason, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, I thought that was a very entertaining round two, certainly between the two. Obviously, the Game 7 just got out of hand, but that's what this Panthers team does to you, right? They kind of wear you down. They ultimately, when they demoralize you like that, it winds up looking ugly, and all of a sudden you look up now, and this Panthers team is up 22-4 in these past 4 road games they've played. So I actually want to. I mean, the reason why I came on with you guys, I know the Leafs draw interest.
We'll get to Eetu. We'll get to Eetu.
I want to talk Panthers, man. Yeah.
Before we get to the Panthers, and we will definitely get to the Panthers here, the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Dallas Stars in Game 7. Where do the Jets go from here?
Yeah, they've got a big question, obviously, with Nikolai Ehlers being a UFA, and given his usage, I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to go elsewhere. I thought they were the best regular season team, certainly, and they won the President's Trophy. It's a bit disappointing that you look at the postseason and some of these teams like the Panthers going out and getting Seth Jones and what he did in that Game 7 against the Leafs, or the Stars who beat the Jets going out and getting Mikko Rantanen and Michael Granlund. Those are teams that kind of loaded up and just, despite being good already, added even better players, and those guys kind of pushed them over the top. Whereas the Jets left the trade deadline with $6 million in unused cap space. Their additions were a third pairing defenseman that wasn't even playing for a couple of those games, and a fourth liner in Brendan Tanev. And so it was incredibly disappointing at the time, and that's ultimately what wound up coming to bite them. So I think they're going to bring back most of the same team with Connor Hellebuck in net. They're probably going to be really good again next year. But if they lose Nikolai Ehlers and they don't replace him, that's going to really limit their offense and the juice they have. And so we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, on the one hand, it was nice to see them win round one, especially in such dramatic fashion at home, the way they did at the buzzer. And they pushed the Stars to 6 games, yet it felt like they really kind of, didn't see this to its full potential just because of how tepid or sort of middling their deadline approach was.
You mentioned the Stars, and coming into this Western Conference final, both of these teams looked absolutely terrifying. Game 1 unfolds, Edmonton looks the scarier team, and then all of a sudden that third period happens, and Skinner lets 5 past him, including an empty netter. But I want to ask you,
power play too.
And the power play was exceptional. So I just want to ask you about Edmonton specifically. Obviously, it's somewhere. Who they actually are is somewhere in between what we saw in the third period and somewhere in between what we saw in the first 2 periods. Which is it closer to? Is it the team that gets let down by Stuart Skinner, or is it the team that had 2 straight shutouts to kill the Vegas Golden Knights?
Can it be both? I mean, this is the Oilers experience, right? It's a complete roller coaster. They never play a boring game. They're either completely dominant or losing in wild fashion, where they just completely fall apart the way they did in that third period. I think it's probably closer to the stingy team, especially after Game 4 or so of round 1 against LA. They really lock things down. You can see, I mean, we saw it last year during their run to the Game 7 of the Cup final. When they apply themselves defensively, they're just such a puck possession beast. And even in that Game 1, I know they lost it, and you come out of that feeling like you blew that opportunity, but McDavid was flying around the ice. I thought Draisaitl looked a lot better physically than he had looked in round 2, and so those guys are going to create so many looks. And as long as they play a bit more disciplined and don't have all those penalties they took, which I would expect moving forward, I think they can bounce right back in this, and they're right up there as the most dangerous teams in the league.
All right, Dmitri, let's get into what we want to talk. At least you and I. I don't know about these guys. I want to talk about the Panthers.
Oh, I'm in.
I'm ready.
Finally.
Yes. So let's start where you and I have kind of been going back and forth a little bit recently, and that's with the Panthers' secret weapon, not so secret weapon at this point, Eetu Luostarinen. We've known that followed the team. We've known how great of a defensive player he is, how sneaky good the offensive skills are. We haven't seen it yet. I've been waiting patiently the last couple of years for him to break out in that way. Now, it seems that Brad Marchand has been the secret sauce that's got him going, but there's so many things, there's so many ways that this guy positively impacts the game. So I wanted to give you the floor and tell these people who don't know about Eetu.
Yeah, I mean, they've been outrageous. After round 2, he was right tied with McDavid and Rantanen for 5-on-5 scoring lead this postseason. You look at the closeout games in particular, Game 5 in Tampa and then Game 7 in Toronto. He plays 30 minutes across those 2 games, comes out with 7 points. The Panthers win his minutes 7-0 in that time. I mean, in both those series, in round one and round two, for all the talk about Barkov and Reinhart and Kachuk, Verhaeghe, and Bennett, it was that line with Luostarinen and Lundell and Marchand that led the team in 5-on-5 scoring in both those series. And it felt like in each of those instances, they were the difference, right? Because both the Lightning, obviously the Lightning having Hagel get hurt and Cirelli be banged up, they weren't the team they were in the regular season, but they just didn't have that sort of second/third line to match what those guys were able to do for the Panthers. And then the same thing happened in the Leaf series, where I know Matthews and Marner are going to get a lot of the flack for falling short again, but really it was the bottom six that just wasn't able to generate anything offensively, and that just hasn't been a problem for the Panthers. And now you look in this series, Verhaeghe's getting going, what that line did in game two in particular, you're getting contributions from everyone, even the fourth line. Paul Maurice puts those guys together in game three of that series, and Gadjevich, Greer, and Nosek are up 4-0, I believe, in their 5-on-5 minutes so far this postseason. And so you're just getting contributions from everyone. And we know that in the NHL postseason, you need that. Every series is going to be a little bit different. Guys are going to go through their lulls at the top of the lineup. And so having some secondary scoring like that to push you over the top is exactly what they've gotten from them.
The way that the Panthers have been able to not just shut down Carolina's offense in terms of their zone exits and their ability to move up the ice, but then to take that, turn it around, and turn it into offense, it's been really amazing to see. And I know a lot of that has to do with Florida's forecheck, particularly the way that their high forward, their F3, responds to when Carolina has the puck. What do you think Carolina needs to do to adjust to get their offense going, if there is anything that they can do at this point?
Yeah, I don't want to be over dramatic. I thought I got up early. I rewatched with clear eyes game two again. I think that was the most pathetic offensive performance I've ever seen, given the circumstances. Right, you lose game one. You lose game one at home. You're like, all right, our backs are against the wall. You expect a certain level of desperation from a team down 1-0 in that spot, and they came out of that game with less than one expected goal generated. They got shut out. I think they had 6 scoring chances by my count in the full 60 minutes, and so it's kind of a repeat of what we saw in this series 2 years ago, where they just aren't able to break through that Panthers defensive shell, actually test Bobrovsky in any meaningful way. I feel like their top guys just need to be better, right? Like they were matched up. That Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis line was predominantly against Kachuk, Bennett, and Verhaeghe, and they weren't able to generate anything and get it done against those guys. They need to be better. I think the blue line as well has made a lot of mistakes. I thought Orlov and Walker had a really tough game two with net front coverage and giveaways and just kind of blowing assignments. And so really there's very few, I think, silver linings or kind of positive takeaways from the Canes perspective. I thought Logan Stankoven made some good stuff happen in game two, but he was really the only guy on that team. And so it's one of those situations where you don't want to burn the tape and be like, all right, well, we got to start from scratch because all of a sudden you're 2 games away from being eliminated. But pretty much everyone on the Hurricanes just needs to be significantly better. And it's pretty much as simple as that.
It was telling the Canes fans chanting, shoot the puck to a team whose entire identity is how much they shoot the puck, how many chances they generate, all that XG that they generate. Their problem has always been XG not translating into goals, really. Now they don't even have the expected goals. So it was really stunning to see how they performed last night.
Yeah, I think the Panthers get in your head, right? We even saw that with the Svechnikov penalty he took on Kachuk in the first period, and that results in the 3-0 goal where the Panthers play this grinding style that's obviously very physical. They kind of push the boundaries of what's actually legal and what's not, and they're just banking on the fact that the refs aren't going to call it. And so a team like the Canes all of a sudden feels the need to prove something by matching that and playing their game. And then what happens is they just move away from what made them effective and what got them to this position in the first place. And I think that's what we saw in game two, where, yeah, it was kind of surreal that a team that even when they're at the lowest and are struggling and getting swept in the East final is still generating shot attempts and shots on goal. And they weren't even able to do that in game two. It was about as easy a shutout performance as I think Sergei Bobrovsky's ever going to have.
Freddie Anderson came into this series as one of the better goaltenders so far in these playoffs. And granted, it was against a broke-down double seam, and it was against a capital seam that basically played over their head all season. None of this is his fault, right?
Yeah, I think certainly they pulled him just kind of as a spark to try to get something going in that third period. It wasn't necessarily representative of anything he did wrong. I mean, listen, you give up 4 goals in 2 periods. It's not a great performance, but then you look at each of those goals and it's getting tipped off. The Forsling goal got kind of bounced off Orlov and past him. Bennett tips to Verhaeghe, power play, the two kind of wraparounds around the net, they wind up going backdoor. The defense in front of them just didn't really help them at all. They weren't covering guys on that backdoor, and that was the case in game one as well. Like, there's a couple goals maybe you'd want to have back, but listen, if you're the Hurricanes right now, you're not scoring anything, you're not generating anything. I feel like the margin for error is so small, and that's a much bigger issue for them than anything that's going on in net. I don't think it's reasonable to expect Anderson or Kochetkov or any of these guys to shut out the Panthers. So if you're going to get back in this series, regardless of the goals against, you're just going to need to generate more yourself.
Sebastian Aho, he's not this type of player, but was that hit on Sam Reinhart dirty? Because at full speed, it looked to me like he was trying to get a hip check in, trying to get a piece of him, but it was entirely too low after seeing that in slow motion.
Yeah, the slow motion makes it look really bad. I thought in real time it didn't necessarily catch my eye as being particularly dirty. I do question like what he's ultimately trying to accomplish there, right? Like when you go that low and you're kind of going at the knees, good things aren't going to happen typically, and it's really unfortunate that happened to Reinhart. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys have heard anything yet. Hopefully it was one of those situations where they were already up 2 or 3-0 at the time, and they just decided to play it safe and keep him out, and hopefully it won't be a serious thing. But yeah, you could see him in discomfort on the bench after, and he obviously didn't return. So hopefully it won't be a serious thing, because Reinhart, despite not scoring much this postseason, I thought him and Barkov have been doing their thing in terms of creating chances and locking the other team down defensively. And if anything, the goals are going to start coming from him. So hopefully we actually get to see that.
You do not hurt my regression candidate and get away with it. You just don't do that.
How dare
Dmitri,
you?
I want to ask you one question about the Canes. By the time we do our next show, there's a chance this series could be over. And if it's over in 4 games again, and you have now lost 16 consecutive Eastern Conference Finals games, including 12 with Rod Brind'Amour behind the bench, where do they go from here? What changes do they have to make? Because something needs to change, clearly, if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, and I think they've acknowledged that they agree, right? We saw them last year. They go out, they acquired Jake Gensel. This year they tried a cameo with Mikko Rantanen. Obviously, it didn't work out for a variety of reasons, but I imagine they're going to be very aggressive in trying to add a star player that can actually turn shots into chances into goals. And that's something they've been lacking. I think part of the logic of the Rantanen trade, I know the optics of kind of acquiring a star like that in season, being considered a cup contender, and then flipping him for futures and taking a bit of a step back didn't look good for them. But you look and they have so much flexibility now with all these prospects. They've accumulated draft picks, a bunch of cap space. And so I imagine they're going to be very aggressive, whether it's pursuing Mitch Marner in free agency or via a trade with all these assets. They're going to go out and take another big swing at a star. And I thought they were going to do that regardless of how this series played out. But maybe if they get swept and it games 3 and 4 look the way these first two have, they might feel an added layer of desperation to really make sure they actually accomplish that this offseason.
And finally, it's much too early for this, but who do you see winning the Conn Smythe Trophy?
Oh, man. Can I stay on brand and say Eetu Luostarinen? Obviously, the voters are never going to give it to him.
I love that so much.
He's been their most valuable player, but it feels like if it continues this way, it's going to be Bobrovsky, just because the numbers look as good as they do, and he was as close as he was last year. So it feels like that would probably be the case without anyone kind of standing out from the skater perspective. But I do feel like what's made this Panthers team special has been that third line, and Luostarinen has been the best of them. And so I feel like by that logic, he's been their most valuable player.
You can find him on the Hockey PDOcast on Sportsnet Radio. Dmitri Filipovic, thank you for joining us.
Anytime, guys. Thanks.
So the boys here are teaching me some hockey, and I started the show, but you're not gonna see it with. He's the man who has the cheese head, the man that has the jerky. Mixed it all together, and they don't even know where it is from. So,
I don't think any of the listeners or viewers know where it's from either.
That's why. Put the video.
I'm the man who had the cheese. I'm the man who
I
had
remember
the
this
jerky.
now.
We put them both together
And we have
it really
cheese
worked.
jerky.
Cheese jerky.
Say what? Say what?
Cheese jerky.
Say what? Say what?
Mozzarella, moose, Swiss salmon, Gouda turkey.
You guys didn't watch Hannah Montana?
It'll drive you berserky. Cheese jerky.
No.
Say what? Say what?
And that's all.
Freaking fresh.
Sizzling
We're done.
Smoke and Oaken Enterprises, patent pending.
What year was that?
Got to
I
be
don't
like
know.
08,
Hannah
09.
Montana.
That was the prime, dude.
Every time-
Sweet Life on Deck, Sweet Life for a
Life on Deck,
Second,
Hannah
Cody,
Montana,
Hannah
yeah.
Montana, That's So Raven.
All right,
I'm
so
telling you,
this
every
says-
time I sing, I'm the man who has the
2007.
cheese and the man who has the jerky. That's what I'm referring to.
Roy, how old were you in 2007? I'm sorry for asking you to do math.
23.
2007. Yeah, okay, 2007, I was 24. So that's why we weren't watching Hannah Montana.
Hannah
Because we're
Montana
grown-ass
bangs, dude.
men.
I don't care. I mean, I watched Sweet Life of Zach and Cody
watched-
in college when Disney Plus came out.
Yeah.
I started rewatching all those shows.
I watched it this year.
They hold up.
Yeah,
Those
I
shows hold
watch
up.
it. I always
Like, it might be
watch
the nostalgia factor, but those shows hold up.
Has anybody left?
Speaking of holding up, the
Any of you
Florida
guys watching?
Panthers are really good.
Oh, there we go. Hockey.
I'm too angry to speak right now.
That was my job.
So
I
I'll
was-
speak for you, Roy.
That was your job.
How good are the Florida Panthers?
No.
What are you talking about? That was your
Yes,
job.
I was driving from here to the Florida Panthers in another Segway. But you know
What's-
what?
no, I'm-
Here-
What's the segue?
Yeah, now I'm
I just
curious.
did the segue.
No,
I
what's
want
her
to hear
segue?
Rose's segue. I want to hear Rose's segue.
That was
Hey.
such a classic that now we're watching another classic with that Barky. How about Barky?
Unbelievable. Well done, Rosie.
Barky.
Well done.
No, she did it. She got it back on the tracks. Another
let's
classic.
talk some Panthers.
The Panthers are dominating.
She got the engine on the tracks, but the car's behind
Yeah.
it. Way
You know,
off
it's
to the side
Rose.
somewhere.
Rose got it back on track in a Rose way. So
I'm so annoyed
we're back
right
on
now.
track. The Panthers. Let's talk about Nico Mikkola.
I really want some cheese jerky. And then I'm gonna need
How good has he been?
One of those.
He's been good, Ethan.
He made that. He made
Wow,
that
that
unbelievable
segue
play in
was
game.
beautiful.
He made that unbelievable play in game one.
I'm sorry. I'm just annoyed. I'm sorry. That was annoying, but yes, he did.
Fly ball.
Made an unbelievable play in game one, dishing off the assist to AJ Greer, and that's just kind of been reflective of like what's been going on in this series, where the Panthers defensemen are scoring at will, just like they have been all playoffs. The scoring up and down the lineup has been absolutely incredible. Another defenseman gets on the board last night. Gustav Forsling
That's
scores
7.
his first goal.
That's 7
All
defensemen.
7 defensemen that have played in a game in these playoffs have scored. 18 different skaters have scored for the Florida Panthers in these playoffs. That doesn't include Evan Rodriguez. That doesn't include Mackie Samoskevich. And it doesn't include Nico Sturm. So there's a chance to get to 20 or
No
21.
sick also.
No sick. Oh, he didn't get credited with a goal. That's right.
So
there's
seven,
a very...
seven defensemen is a tie for a league record, and obviously that happened because of the Ekblad suspension.
If you get 8 defensemen scoring during a playoff run, like that's good and bad,
crazy.
right?
Because there's injuries. And
Yeah,
suspensions.
you don't want to go 8 deep on your blue line when you're making a playoff.
There's a
run.
legitimate chance that the
right?
Panthers...
Rose.
Yes.
Rose gets me.
All 15 forwards and all 7 defensemen could score in these playoffs for the Panthers.
Yeah, no doubt. And Nico Mikkola, we've been saying this for 3 years now. We've seen him pinch in on the offense, and it's not really that weird to see. I mean, you see plenty of defensemen pinching in on
had that-
offense,
that
but
nice
that's a
one.
big man pinching in.
You remember that nice one he had that rush goal during the final last year?
Yeah.
I can still hear, who was it? Was it Sean McDermott? Nico Mikkola! Like, I
The
love it.
surprise in his voice.
Oh
It
my
was
I've
God.
always thought that Mikkola, like you saw this year, he had a couple really nice goals on the rush, moving up the ice. He's always hasn't gotten a lot of credit as a good puck-moving defenseman, but
Mikkola?
he can move the
77.
puck. 77. Hit it, Roy.
Really
Panthers?
Yes, he plays for the Panthers.
Yeah.
He's played for the
Nico
Panthers
Mikkola.
every year that you've been covering
He's
the team.
from Finland, Rosie.
Oh,
yeah.
Mikkola. I
He's
don't
from
know who he
Finland.
is.
But he's always hasn't got enough
Unbelievable,
credit
man.
as a
Oh, my
puck
God.
mover. And I think he's starting to show his skill as what he can do going up the ice, especially because he's got more defensive cover with a guy like Seth Jones playing with him.
Yeah.
How much do you think that it's the Panther systems that may be holding Mikkola back? Just because you think about like a guy like Aaron Ekblad, who we've seen what kind of offense he can do when he's got an offensive mind.
I don't know, because the Panthers, they love getting their defensemen in on the offense. So I don't think the Panthers system is really affecting him as much as you think it is. I
think
know.
he was just playing with a guy like he was on. It was him and Montour last year, or was it him and?
Yeah, last year was
Yeah,
Montour,
so
and then this year he's been with Kulikov.
He didn't have to pinch in as much because Montour was doing that job,
Yeah.
right? Getting more offensive. And Seth Jones is a good offensive defenseman too, but now the Panthers are just all over these teams. They have so much more defensive cover with their forwards that it's allowing him to step down more, and he's been amazing.
You just reminded me of something else that I've been thinking a lot during the playoffs, or that I was thinking a lot heading towards the playoffs, and that was how are the Panthers going to replace Montour and OEL on the offensive side? Just because, for Montour particularly, he's been so good offensively for the Panthers. He had been during his tenure with the Panthers. And now their Panthers are setting records by defensive scoring in the playoffs. So clearly, my worry was misplaced.
Yeah. The Panthers' power play surprisingly has 4 goals against the best penalty killer in the league.
The funny thing is, I don't even think the power play has looked that good. Like, they've been very disjointed at times. The second power play they scored on last night, the Canes had better chances. You know, they go the other way on an odd man rush a couple times.
Yeah, that power
but
play
Rosey
looked
makes a great
absolutely
save.
disjointed.
They were all over the place, and then all of a sudden, here comes Verhaeghe, fires a shot on net. Sam Bennett gets a great deflection in. But look at the Panthers' distribution of scoring. Like, we talked about how much the defensemen are scoring. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players in double digits in
It's the count
points.
from Sesame Street.
Dude, I swear to God, I was about to do that.
Sam Bennett has 9 goals. They have 3 guys tied at the top with 13 points. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys with 8 or more assists. It's just unbelievable. The depth and you know, we talked earlier in the show about Bill Zitto and how he's a finalist for GM of the Year. If he doesn't win it this year with the team that he's built, bringing in Seth Jones and Brad Marchand, it would be a travesty.
I want to talk about how bad the Hurricanes' penalty kill has been, and it's all based on the very first goal of the series with Carter Verhaeghe on the power play. He had so much time that he was able to settle the puck down, put it on edge, and on his backhand, lift it bar down on Freddie Anderson. There was zero excuse for him to be that wide open.
Yeah. For as good as their PK has been, that was a pretty big defensive lapse, and you cannot leave a guy like Carter Verhaeghe. I mean, really, anybody on the Panthers' top power play, like, they're all elite scoring players, but that was, I mean, like you said, that set the tone.
The power play has almost been working better since they went to the 2 forward, the 2 defenseman lineup. Where
there have been a lot of complaints about that, by the way.
And I understand, because you kind of want that. You would like to get Reinhart, which we'll talk about in a minute, Chucky, Barkey, and Verhaeghe out there along with Seth Jones quarterbacking the power play. But, you know, it's working so far with Ekblad being out there instead of Verhaeghe, and then dropping Verhaeghe down to the second line with, I think it's been Erod and Bennett. But, you know, I was listening to, I believe it was 32 Thoughts, and they were talking about that Verhaeghe goal. And Elliot was talking about how he was talking with Chris Pronger about it. And, yeah, it looks like, oh, wow, you know, the Canes are doing such a terrible job on the PK, allowing Verhaeghe to get wide open like that.
Puck movement?
But the Panthers made 5 tape-to-tape passes to get him that wide open against the league's best penalty kill.
So
as
to
much
get him
as,
out of position.
As much as sometimes they've been disjointed on the penalty kill or on the power play, they've also had some times where they've looked really good, and they're now 4 for 5 on the power play against the league's best penalty kill. It's unbelievable.
That on a yes from you, Rosey?
People are gonna kill me, but I'm gonna roast you, Ethan. I might change this show to Ethan Talks Hockey.
Why?
Ethan talks a lot of hockey.
Well, I
this
mean,
is
it's
my
a hockey
this is
show.
my forum. This is where I get it off, man.
Yeah,
this is what
but
we do. We talk hockey.
Maybe don't say
30
it like
minutes
that
of
again.
Ethan.
I mean, that is so dismissive. Jesus Christ. Sam Reinhart, it's a blow, and hopefully we get some good news on him tomorrow, because that's when Paul Maurice says he's going to give us the news. Sam Reinhart took that hit from Sebastian Aho on a hip check that went awry. He went too low on him. And took out his knee. So when you lose Sam Reinhart, you don't just lose him offensively. He was a finalist for the Selke Trophy.
Yeah,
you lose him
he
defensively.
might win the Selke Trophy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of steam for Reinhart. No, you know what? Just another little sidetrack here, but talking to a lot of the voters, like there's a lot more Reinhart love than I realized was out there.
All right, good. We'll see on that.
I think this is his year to win it.
Yeah,
and I also think that the first thing I said when I saw that injury last night is the Panthers are not winning a Stanley Cup without Sam Reinhart.
Right. So you lose him offensively, you lose him defensively, you lose him on the power play, you lose him on the penalty kill. That's how big that is. That's just about as big as losing Alexander Barkov. That hit. So hopefully, I'm sorry. Hopefully we get some good news tomorrow, and we'll see about him for Game 3.
Well, they're going to evaluate him today. I mean, as long as there's nothing structurally wrong, then it'll be okay. But I don't like to speculate with hits.
Yeah.
We've
seen hits on Barkov that look like, he might be done for the season.
Well,
but
that's what I was thinking about.
Game.
I was thinking about that last night, how it was one time in this playoff. I don't know if it was the Tampa series maybe. It was the final last year.
Yeah, the Hagel hit.
Yeah, the Hagel, thank you. And then it was the Draisaitl hit during the final last year where we're breaking down wins and we're fuming over hits. But both times, as you said, Barkov was okay. So, putting some good juju out there for Sam Reinhart. Hopefully, Sam's okay.
And I will say this, as much as I said right away, the Panthers are not winning a Stanley Cup without Sam Reinhart, you watch the rest of that performance. And I know that the teams in the West are certainly better than Edmonton, or than what we're seeing from Carolina. And they have,
from Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas certainly, but, Edmonton has McDavid and Draisaitl, but
they don't have anybody else outside of Zach Hyman.
The Panthers certainly look like a team that can just kind of keep going without Reinhart the way they played last night. I imagine that if he's out, Jesper Boquist comes in. He's been awesome. Mackie Samoskevich is another option. The Panthers have plenty of options of guys that can come right in. They don't have to shake up the lines too much. You can just kind of, Mackie's played on the first line this year. J-Bo's played on the first line this year. And we saw AJ Greer was up on the first line last night and playing really well. It doesn't matter who's playing with a guy like Alexander Barkov and Evan Rodriguez. They can fit right in and play really well. So I don't know that the Panthers... It's a huge loss, don't get me wrong. Sam Reinhart is an amazing player. He does so much that just kind of flies under the radar that I think after a couple games without Reinhart, you'll start noticing the loss of what he does defensively. But the Panthers have the depth where they still would have a really good chance.
Yeah, it's one of those next man up situations, and you can do that when your top 9 has been performing as well as all 12 of them, all 12 forwards has been performing as well as
it's been unbelievable.
So Game 3 against the Hurricanes tomorrow night in Sunrise, as the Florida Panthers look to make this a 3-0 series lead. The Hurricanes, by the way, on the road 3-2 so far in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there, and we'll see what happens with Sam Reinhart if not he ends up playing or not.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I'd be surprised if he plays Game 3.
No, hold him out.
I mean, if he's fine, he's fine. But if there's anything residual from that hit, even if it's nothing long term, I mean, they afforded themselves the luxury that if they need to hold a guy out,
obviously you got a 2-0 lead right now. You can play with that a little bit.
Like, you don't want to tempt fate, but look, if there's a time where they could use a little bit of rest time. They've afforded themselves that by kicking the shit out of them in 2 straight games.
It really has been shit kicking.
2 goals
and 2 goals.
Well, they'll be fine without Reinhart if they keep giving up a goal a game.
Nope. 1 power play goal. It came in garbage time. The Jackson Blake goal.
Yeah.
5 of the last 6 games that the Panthers have played, dating back to Game 4 of the Toronto series, I've said that was their best performance of the playoffs. And each time, it just keeps getting better. Game 1, people said, the Canes couldn't possibly play better or worse than that. They were right. Or they won't play that bad, again, is what they said. They were right. They played even worse. And the Panthers played even better, stunningly, in Game 2. And, now they have a goaltender question because Freddie Anderson got pulled. And it's just been amazing to see the forward depth. They'll go back to Anderson, but at least the question's out there of what do you do. But the Panthers have just been so good and so swarming. And to shut down a team in the way that they have, whose identity is literally how many shots and chances they generate over and over and over again, it took them until 6 minutes into the third period to get their 10th shot of the night. It was really an unbelievable defensive performance from the Panthers.
Rosey, you got anything to say before we get out of here?
Yes, before we get out of here, remember we have shirts. I'm going to put the link. It's going to direct you to my shirt. So if you want another one, do the job.
God damn it.
But yeah, remember we're competing. Whoever sells the most wins something, and whoever sells the least is going to have a penalty. So
penalty?
Yeah.
Great. We are not doing penalties.
Yes, we are.
This is not a competition.
It is. So go to the link there and buy your shirts.
All right, LebatardAF.com to get merch. We got shirts, all 4 of us, with our names on them, our nicknames on them, and Shutdown City shirts. That's where you can find the Hockey Show merch.
Shutdown City shirt's nice.
I meant to wear that shirt today, and I totally forgot.
How could you forget?
I packed it with me for my brother's house. I'm staying there this weekend, and I totally forgot it.
Oh, man.
Damn it, Ethan.
Yeah, that was bad on me. It's a beauty. Go get it.
Is that the only one you got, or did you get a Badowski shirt?
I haven't ordered my Budsky shirt yet, but I will be ordering my Budsky shirt.
We're talking about your shirts, Rose.
What are you doing?
We're trying to sell the show here, Rosey.
Rose is like, you got my link. You don't need the show anymore. Goodbye.
All right. For Dmitri Filipovic, for Ethan, for Rosey, for Jason, for Gino, For Danny GQ, he's back there. For David Dwork and myself, this was the Hockey Show. Game 3, Carolina and Florida on Saturday. Tonight, we got Dallas and Edmonton. Enjoy the conference finals, everybody. We'll see you next week.